So you want to get into the gym. That's great. But you're going to need to know what type of body that you want. The aesthetic look. The movie star, the lean guy, the fit guy, the athletic build. This is a build that is lean with some muscle mass, mainly 5 to 15% body fat. The most conventionally attractive build. So this is the build that would be most seen on models or movie stars. Good examples of this build would be Brad Pitt in Fight Club, Hayden Christensen in Revenge of the Sith, or Taylor Lautner in Twilight. This is the build you would go for if you want to be attractive, not the build you want to go for pure muscle size or strength. This build, I feel, is also one of the most attainable, being the quickest and easiest to get. So the pros, you would be lean most of the year, visible abs, and you wouldn't have to do super intense training to build a ton of muscle. You also would be more conventionally attractive because some people are turned off by the giant muscle look or a ton of body fat. Cons. It would be pretty difficult to stay that lean all year long, especially sub 10. So for long-term success, you would probably want to stay 10 to 15 most of the year and then sometimes cut underneath 10. Also, in clothes, you would look pretty skinny. You might not even look like you lift weights. And you would barely be in a caloric surplus at all. Most of the year, you're either going to be at maintenance or a deficit. So how to obtain this? You would probably have to go to the gym a few times a week, hitting the main muscle groups, and then you'd have to focus on your diet. Depending on your current composition, you'd either have to lean bulk, cut, or possibly try to do a body recomp. The jacked look, the swole look, the bodybuilder, the guy who pumps iron at the gym. This is the build that most people that want to go to the gym want to look like. Now for many, this might be too big to be considered conventionally attractive. You're going to want to focus on muscle mass and staying decently lean. I would say more 8 to 25% rather than 5 to 10. Now this is the look of a guy who pumps iron. You're going to have a ton of muscle mass while staying lean. But compared to the aesthetic build, you're not staying as lean, nor are you staying lean all year long. And this is going to take years to build. You're going to have to bulk and cut over and over until you have enough muscle mass and can stay lean. Good example of this would be really any bodybuilder. I am thinking more obtainable looks than bodybuilders, but essentially you could do any fitness influencer. A good example that I was thinking of was Derek from More Plates, More Dates. Like a guy with a ton of muscle mass and is decently lean, but he's not quite as small or, athletic or normal looking. Pros. He'll be lean but not small. So unlike the aesthetic look, you will not be small in clothes. You're going to look like you lift and you still get to be lean. However, cons, you will have to bulk and cut. You will not be lean all year long. And for some, depending on your goal, this might be too big to obtain naturally. And for many, this might take 10 or 20 years of dedicated lifting, bulking, and cutting. And for most people, there could be some health risks to keeping that much size or bulking on that much size. And obviously, if you go the other route, there are health risks there too. So how to obtain? As I've said, pretty much consistently going to the gym for 10 years or more, bulking and cutting. And even for many, you might not be able to obtain the amount of mass you want. So I would say to keep your expectations reasonable. And of course, there is another way to get this, but I am not going to go into that. Strongman, the swole look, the power bod, the dad bod, the bear. This is the guy who doesn't care about aesthetics. He just wants to be as big as possible and lift as much weight as possible. Now, this build is going to have a ton of muscle mass, but also a ton of fat. This guy does not care about cutting. He is going to try to lift as much weight as possible. And with this build, you could be a strongman or a power lifter. You're going to be the guy who outbenches everyone. A good example of this would be Eddie Hall. Now, obviously, he is bigger than most of us could ever get, reasonably, and stronger, but he is a quintessential strongman. So the pros, you're going to be strong as hell, you're never going to have to cut, and you can be way more lax on your diet, and you're still going to have a ton of muscle. Now, the cons, you're not going to be as lean or attractive to some. You're really never going to be lean since you're just focusing on strength and size. You're going to constantly have to be eating a ton of calories, and obviously you're going to be at risk of health issues. And for many guys, this is also not obtainable, just concerning the amount of muscle mass you'd have to gain. And especially if you're already a naturally lean or skinny guy, good luck getting this build. How to obtain? The best bet on how to try to obtain this would just to be to eat a ton of protein and calories for 10 years and just lift heavy. And disclaimer, even doing this, you're probably not going to get as much muscle mass as a guy like Eddie Hall. You got to keep it realistic, but you could probably get a mini version of him if you tried consistently for 10 years.